For 10 years, Brené Brown studied shame for a living. Then one gray November afternoon, sitting in a red chair at her kitchen table, her own research told her that she, the expert, was the one drowning in it. She had spent a decade collecting thousands of stories, hunting for the thing that lets some people live and love with their whole hearts. She built two lists, the things those people did and the things that got in their way. And when she stepped back and read them, she put her hand over her mouth because she was not living at the top of that list. She was living straight down the bottom of it. This is the story of what she did next and the 10 things she had to let go of to become who she already was. On that poster paper were 2 columns. One overflowed with words like worthiness, rest, play, trust, creativity, and joy. The other dripped with the things that choke them: perfection, numbing, certainty, exhaustion, the need to look cool, and the quiet ache of never feeling like enough. Brown drew a line under that second list and wrote one word beneath it: me. She had believed that if she just knew enough, studied enough, parented by enough books, she would be fine. But the data was brutally clear. Knowing yourself matters, but it is not the thing that saves you. Loving yourself is. What followed she calls, only half joking, her 2007 breakdown. Her therapist calls it a spiritual awakening. They are both right. And out of that long, muddy year came one question. The question this whole book is built to answer. What does it actually take to feel like you are enough? Here is the trap almost all of us live inside. We tell ourselves we will be worthy later. I'll be worthy when I lose the weight, when I make partner, when I finally get sober, when my parents approve, when he calls back. We stand outside our own story, Brown says, and we hustle for our worthiness, performing, perfecting, pleasing, proving, as if love were a wage we could earn. But her research pointed the exact opposite way. The people living wholehearted lives had simply stopped auditioning. Their one shared belief was this: worthy now, not if, not when, as is. Worthiness has no prerequisites. And that is the hinge the whole book turns on. You do not become enough by fixing yourself first. You start by deciding you already are, and you build your life from there. So how do you actually live from that? Brown gives that life a name: wholehearted living. Waking up and thinking, no matter what gets done and how much is left undone, I am enough. But a belief that stays in your head changes nothing. It has to be practiced daily through 3 ordinary tools. First, courage, and not the heroic kind. The word comes from the Latin for heart, and its oldest meaning was simply to tell the story of who you are with your whole heart. Second, compassion, which, she learned, is not soft at all. The most compassionate people are the most boundary people there are. They can be kind precisely because they are willing to say no. And third, connection. The energy that lives between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued. Practice those 3 imperfectly, and they turn into something else. They become gifts, the gifts of imperfection. But there is a reason we do not just choose worthiness and walk free. Something stands in the doorway, and Brown has spent her whole career naming it: shame. She calls it the master emotion, the quiet voice that whispers you are flawed and therefore unworthy of love and belonging. And here is the distinction that changes everything. Guilt says, I did something bad. Shame says, I am bad. Guilt can push us to do better. Shame just makes us want to disappear. And shame, she found, needs exactly 3 things to survive and grow: secrecy, silence, and judgment, which means it also has one natural enemy. Say it out loud to someone who has earned the right to hear it, and watch it start to lose its grip. But that requires the one thing shame is engineered to prevent: being seen. Brown tells this one on herself. She once agreed to speak to a room full of parents, only to walk in and discover they had been ordered to attend. Arms folded, resentful. It went badly. And on the drive home, the shame storm hit. I'm a fraud. Who did I think I was? She could have swallowed it in silence, the way we are all trained to. Instead, she did the brave, unglamorous thing. She called her sister Ashley, She said the humiliating part out loud. And Ashley did not fix it, or minimize it, or hand her advice. She just said, in effect, me too. I have been there. That is empathy, and it is the antidote, not a solution. Just another human saying, you are not alone in this. Shame cannot survive being spoken and met with me too. That single move, reach out and tell the story, is the engine under all 10 of the guideposts that come next. So we arrive at the 10 guideposts. 10 things wholehearted people learn to let go of. And the first is the need to control what other people think. Authenticity, Brown says, is not something you either have or you don't. It is a collection of choices you make every single day. The choice to let your real self be seen, even when the safer move is to perform. But here's the catch nobody warns you about. Authenticity is not rewarded by everyone. The moment you stop shape-shifting to please the room, some people will push back because your realness holds up a mirror to their performance. It makes them uncomfortable. Choosing to be seen anyway, knowing that cost, is the first letting go. And maybe the hardest, because once you step out from behind the mask, you will inevitably get something wrong right there in the open. Which is exactly why the second guidepost is self-compassion and letting go of perfectionism. We treat perfectionism like a virtue. Brown calls it a 20-ton shield we haul around, believing that if we just look perfect and do everything perfectly, we can dodge the sting of blame. But perfectionism is not the same as striving to be better. Healthy striving is aimed at yourself. How can I improve? Perfectionism is aimed at other people. What will they think? And underneath it, she says, shame is always waiting. In fact, shame is the birthplace of perfectionism. The way out is not to try harder. It is to be as kind to yourself as you would be to a good friend. To remember that messing up is not a personal defect. It is the price of admission for being human. Or, as Leonard Cohen sings in the line she loves, there's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. Being seen and imperfect hurts. So of course, we go looking for the off switch. The third guidepost is about that switch. Numbing. This is Brown's most personal chapter. She admits to more than a decade of sobriety, and to what a friend once called a whole platter of ways to take the edge off. A glass of wine, the extra work, the busyness, the food, the phone, anything to dull the sharp points of hard feeling. But here's the finding that stops you cold. We cannot selectively numb. When we numb the fear, the grief, the shame, we numb joy and love and gratitude right along with them. There is no dial that turns down, only the dark. Turn it down, and the whole room dims. Resilience, she found, is not about never falling. It is about staying awake to your own life, sharp points and all, and trusting that even here, you are enough. Stay awake to your life, though, and you run straight into a strange fear. Guidepost 4. Gratitude and Joy. Brown describes standing over her sleeping daughter, flooded with love, and in the very next heartbeat, ambushed by an image of losing her. Have you ever done that? Gotten so happy it suddenly feels dangerous, like you were inviting disaster, waiting for the other shoe to drop. She confessed this to a room of 500 parents, certain they would think she was crazy. Instead, a woman in the back began to sob. We all do it. Joy, it turns out, is the most vulnerable feeling we have, so we hedge it with dread. The wholehearted do not feel less fear. They practice gratitude right in the middle of it, not as an attitude, but as a daily habit. Because, as Brown puts it, the dark does not destroy the light, it defines it. It is our fear of the dark that casts our joy into the shadows. If joy asks us to tolerate uncertainty, Guidepost 5 asks us to make peace with it. Intuition and faith. Brown confesses that she is a recovering certainty addict, a professional pollster, she jokes, forever taking a vote before she will trust her own gut. But intuition, she learned, is not some magic knowing. It is the willingness to hold space for not knowing and to trust the quieter forms of wisdom. Instinct, experience, faith. And faith here is not about religion versus reason. It is the courage to believe in what you cannot see and cannot prove. The real enemy of that courage is not doubt. As the writer Anne Lamott puts it, the opposite of faith is not doubt, it is certainty. The desperate need to be sure is exactly what strangles the quiet intuition that was trying to guide you all along. Guidepost 6 is the one people resist the hardest. Creativity. Oh, I'm just not the creative type. Brown will not let you off the hook. In all of her data, she says, there is no such thing as creative people and non-creative people. There are only people who use their creativity and people who don't, and the ones who don't are usually carrying that unused gift around like a low-grade ache. So what kills it? Comparison. And comparison is sneaky because it demands two opposite things at the same time. Be just like everyone else, and also be the best. Fit in and stand out. It is a rigged game, and you can never win it. The wholehearted quietly opt out. They make the thing. The badly painted gourd. The amateur photograph. The words nobody asked for. Not to be better than anyone else, but because making it is simply how they stay themselves. By now you might be thinking, who has the time for any of this? Which is precisely Guidepost 7. Play and rest, and letting go of exhaustion as a status symbol. We wear our busyness like a badge. I'm slammed. I'm exhausted. Said almost with pride, as if being depleted were proof that we matter. But researchers who study play give a startling warning. The opposite of play is not work. The opposite of play is depression. Rest and play are not rewards you earn after the real work is done. They are as vital to you as food. So Brown's family did something that felt almost radical. They sat down and wrote out their actual ingredients for a joyful, meaningful life. And they noticed that almost none of it appeared on their frantic dream list of things to buy and achieve. So they started cutting. Fewer activities, fewer hours, more time doing nothing that would ever look impressive and feeling for the first time alive. But slowing down surfaces whatever the busyness was hiding. And Guidepost 8 meets it head on. Calm and stillness, letting go of anxiety as a way of life. For years, Brown ran so anxious that she would get physically dizzy, and she assumed the goal was to function better while anxious. Her therapist offered a harder idea. What if you were just less anxious? Wholehearted people are not anxiety-free. They are anxiety-aware. They notice the first spark before it becomes a wildfire, because anxiety, like calm, is contagious. Panic can rip through a family or a team in seconds, but so can a single steady voice. And stillness is not about emptying your mind or reaching some perfect blank. It is simply opening a clearing, a pause long enough to feel what is real before you react. In a world engineered to keep you reactive, that pause is a quiet act of rebellion. That clearing is where Guidepost 9 begins. Meaningful work and letting go of self-doubt and supposed to. Everyone, Brown insists, is born with gifts, and sitting on them does not keep us safe. It makes us ache. What buries them are two little words. Supposed to. I'm supposed to be a lawyer. I'm supposed to have this all figured out by now. She met an accountant who was also, quietly, a gifted jeweler, but who could not bring himself to say the word jeweler out loud, as if he had not yet earned it. So many of us do exactly that. We amputate the truest part of our work because it does not fit the story we are supposed to be living. The wholehearted claim all of it. As the theologian Howard Thurman said, do not ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. Which brings us to the 10th guidepost, and the one Brown says she failed at the most. Laughter, song, and dance. Letting go of being cool and always in control. Picture it. She is in a department store in her baggiest sweats, feeling invisible, when her 8-year-old daughter Ellen starts dancing right there by the shoe racks, doing the robot. Across the aisle, a trio of polished mothers and their daughters turn and stare, faces already curling toward a sneer. Ellen freezes mid-move, looks up at her mom, and her eyes ask the oldest question there is, what do I do? And Brown feels the pull we all know. To shoot her daughter a look that says, knock it off, you're embarrassing me. To save herself by betraying her child. Instead, She reaches down for her courage, smiles, and says, "You need to add the scarecrow." And she dances too, right there in the shoe department. Because when we betray ourselves to look cool, she learned, we end up betraying the people we love most. 10 guideposts. And if you're waiting for the part where you finally master them, that is the very last thing to let go of. Brown is blunt. She still gets it wrong, daily. Wholehearted living was never a destination you arrive at. It is more like walking toward a star. You never quite reach it, but you always know you are heading the right way. On the hard days, when she is flat out exhausted, she does 3 small things she calls digging deep. She gets deliberate. A breath, a prayer, an intention. She gets inspired to make one different choice, and then she gets going. She takes one small action. Not perfectly. That is the entire point. The gifts only work when you actually use them. Courage, compassion, connection, practiced with the mud still wet on your shoes. So go back to that woman in the red chair, hand over her mouth, staring at a list that spelled out everything she was not. She did not become enough by fixing every item on it. She became enough the moment she decided to stop hustling and to own the whole messy story and to love herself all the way through it. That, Brown writes, is the bravest thing any of us will ever do. Not the dancing, not the achieving, the owning. You are imperfect. You are wired for struggle, and you are worthy of love and belonging exactly as you are right now. Not if, not when. As is. You are enough. If this stirred something in you, stay with us. Next, we open Mel Robbins and the Let Them Theory, 2 small words that hand your peace right back to you. Until then, dare to be seen, add the scarecrow, and keep walking toward your star.